Hey YouTubers, today I did a review of the Super Tenere, the 2018 Super Tenere. I took it for a test ride and I wanted to kind of report back to you with my review. So I visited East Bay Motorsports, so the Yamaha team came out and they switched things around this year, so they didn't allow any videotaping during the ride. So I'm doing a review after just completing the ride. I just got off the ride, and so I'm doing this whilst the data points are still fresh in my memory. So what I'm going to cover is kind of first impressions of the bike, what I like about the bike, what I don't like about the bike, and then I'm going to close by kind of discussing what kind of rider, what kind of riding, would be great for this bike, and then I'll close with, kind of just giving my opinion on would I buy this or not for myself. So that's what I wanted to cover. So let's hit the first topic first, first impression. So, as soon as I kind of saw the bike, I noticed it's a very kind of big and it's a good looking bike. It's big and it's big and roomy. And then when I sat on it, I felt I felt I had a lot of space in the cockpit. And I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 6 foot tall, right? So I like comfortable bikes, like large big bikes suit me. So what I noticed, about this bike was it's extremely big, it's extremely roomy. But the first thing I noticed was I noticed that the seat height was much lower than my BMW GSA and my V-Strom. So that was surprising. As I took it for the ride, I did find the seat extremely comfortable. Um, so let's talk about, what I liked about the bike. So I sat on the bike. The seat is extremely comfortable. It was just it was a pleasure to ride on the freeway and on the twisties. The route was basically a 30-minute test ride, so it was a pretty comprehensive test ride over freeways and the hills of Hayward. So East Bay Motorsports is located in Hayward. That's the home city of Dwayne Johnson, the guy in The Rock, right? So this is where he grew up. So we took it for about half the riding, and in the we started off in the freeway, then we hit the hills, then we hit downtown Hayward, a lot of traffic conditions. So we got a flavor of all three terrains. So the bike, what I like about this, big and roomy, extremely low center of gravity. This bike is heavier than my GSA. My GSA weighs about 510 pounds, the model that I have, and then my V-Strom is about 470 pounds, right? So this thing clocks in at over 540 pounds, but I didn't feel the difference significantly because it packs its weight quite low, so it has a nice low center of gravity. Um, what I did notice about this bike is you sit into the seat, versus sitting on top of the bike. Like for example, my GSA, my BMW GSA adventure bike, I'm sitting on top of the bike. As also on my V-Strom, I'm kind of sitting on this one. I'm sitting right kind of into the seat. It's very comfortable, very roomy. And then as I was driving the freeways, riding on the freeways and on the test ride, I noticed the handlebars to be um, less wider than my GSA handlebars. So what I liked about the bike was the front brakes was just phenomenal on this bike. Just awesome braking. It had so much bite on the front brake, similar to my GSA. My BMW GSA has similar um, front braking. And I also noticed the engine here that it's a 1200cc parallel twin. This engine is very smooth and very torquey, and I love that. I love smooth engines. I love torquey engines. And it had enough power to move this bike along. It had good pickup. It wasn't slow. And it was also very good on the winding roads. I felt like the instrument cluster was it gave very good information about kind of what was going on the ride. And then I noticed it had two modes. It had the sports mode and the touring mode. And the sport mode definitely had some kick. The touring mode was laid back. So I used both modes, kind of played around with it. Um, and the stocks, and then when I'm riding on the freeway, man, I tell you, this windscreen on this bike is just amazing. There was absolutely no wind buffeting at all. Um, that's amazing. I've never ridden on a bike stock where the kind of the excellent ergonomics and there's no wind buffeting. what I didn't like about the, so let's touch on what I didn't like about. So I talked about a lot of pluses. The only thing that I didn't like about the bike was it's not really a strong dislike. It's just something that I need to get used to on this bike. I just felt like the front was a little heavy, like the front suspension. It was a little heavy in a good way because it tracks and it maintains its line on the freeway and you won't get thrown around by the wind. So that's kind of, it's a kind of a good thing, but I just noticed that because I'm used to the lighter front end on my GSA. Like my GSA, my BMW GSA has this telescoping suspension. So the front end is very, very light. And also my V-Strom front end is also much lighter than this Super Tenere. So that's, I mean, this is something I could get used to on this bike. But for me, I'm used to kind of a lighter front end on the BMW and the V-Strom compared to this. So that's the only thing that I didn't like about this bike. But I think you could get used to this. So the type of riding this bike is absolutely great for is if you want to do long distance freeway cruising, long distance travel across America, this is just absolutely perfect. Wind is not going to push this bike around. When you hit the open terrains and the open freeways of California, and the hills, the wide open plains, you're gonna just stick to your line. It's a fantastic freeway motorcycle. It's not a city bike. This thing is not a city bike. It's a great long distance commuter, uh, and uh, and I would also use this on trails, light trails. I wouldn't take it on like complex trails because if this thing falls down, it's going to be extremely heavy to pick up. So I just want to close by, saying, would I buy it? So I think this bike, the Super Tenere, the 2019 version, is a fantastic alternative to the BMW GS or the GSA. You're getting so much bike for a very good entry point. So I think the power plant on this bike is just phenomenal. I love this parallel twin engine. It's just fantastic. And so I think this is a great alternative. Um, Now would I kind of consider myself, I could definitely see myself owning this bike. And because I think I could get this bike, if I could get this bike at a significant discount, because I know these bikes you can negotiate the price much more than the Beamers, right? The Beamers, the GS and the GSA. So given that if I was able to get a significant discount with a good negotiation, I would definitely consider this bike. I think it's a great bike. I could be happy with it. Um, I do definitely think that the GS and the GSA definitely have better handling. Like I just said earlier on, the handling and the suspension on the Beamers is better than this. But this is no slouch. I think this is a great bike. So that was my review of the 2018 Super Tenere. This is the exact color that I took out. It was a fantastic ride. I enjoyed it. Stay tuned because I also rode the 2019 Tracer 900 GT and also rode the 2019 Yamaha R3. So check out those reviews as well. And thanks for watching.